Hi, I'm Mason Marangella from Vertex Effects, aka the Rig Doctor, and today I'm taking you through the rig build of our pedalboard giveaway winner from the month of April, our friend Rhye. Now, if you're not familiar with the pedalboard giveaway that we did a couple months ago, what we did is we offered to build the pedalboard of your dreams, where we would pay for all of your stuff to get shipped to us. We would provide all the materials to build the board along with some of our sponsors, people like Truetone for the power supplies, Best-Tronics for all the accessories and cables, and then we would be providing the pedalboard and I would be building the entire thing for them. And Rhye was the winner of that particular giveaway. So this is documenting the process of his build, getting it from him, coming from Hawaii, building this thing up exactly the way that he wanted it with his gear to make it the pedalboard of his dreams. So follow us through this build. It's absolutely amazing. It sounds great. And I think Rhye is going to be really happy with it when it gets back to him in Hawaii and he gets to start using it in church and some of the gigs that he's doing. I can't wait to see what he thinks. Let's get into this build. This is the pedalboard rig build that I did for our pedalboard giveaway for our new good friend, Rhye, over in Hawaii. So as I mentioned before, this was a collaborative process as part of the giveaway, and we had multiple different people that were working with us to make this possible. First off, on the rig, we always have a great power supply, and one of the donors of this particular power supply was our friends at Truetone that were helping us out with this giveaway. We got the CS12 on this rig, and it's going underneath the riser. Absolutely great switch mode style power supply. Kind of a hybrid because it's got that AC side that does have a transformer, but for all intents and purposes, the primary part that we're using for this rig is all part of the switch mode. Now, also we had a great high quality stereo buffer provided from our friends at Goodwood Audio. We're using that as the hub that everything is plugging in and out of, and we are running stereo in this rig, so we're getting to utilize the benefits of the Goodwood Audio interfacer, a great alternative if you need a pre-made buffer that has all the things you need all in one. That's definitely something you should check out, and they were also one of the sponsors of this giveaway, so shout out to Goodwood for providing that. Now for the rig, we're using our Vertex Effects 20x11 pedal board with a cutout for a volume pedal because Rhye does use a volume pedal, which we're gonna connect to the Vertex Boost, which I told him that we would throw in there because he did wanna use a high quality boost and he did want to represent one of our products on there, so I said he could choose whatever he wanted. This is what he chose, so we're throwing a boost on there for him, and we're going to connect that to his existing volume pedal so he doesn't have any tone suck as a consequence of that. But getting into the nitty-gritties of the build, as I talk about always, you gotta observe the holy trinity of tone. These are the three things that you need to do to ensure that no matter what happens on your rig, it's always going to be as quiet as possible, sound as good as possible, and is going to be as reliable as possible. So let's look at part number one of the holy trinity of tone. First thing is first is always using high quality buffering. We've got that satisfied with the interfacer from Goodwood Audio. It's got that 1 meg input impedance. It's got a little higher output impedance than I usually go for, but still very high quality and definitely a great thing if people want to have an all-in-one buffer that serves multi-purposes, is going to give you good quality tone, and is going to represent the same sound as the guitar plugged into the amp, even though you're running through a bunch of different pedals. We'll demonstrate that for you a little later. Second part of the holy trinity of tone is using soldered cables. Best-Tronics provide their patch cables for us. I soldered them all to length using the Square Plugs SP400 and SPS4 throughout the entire rig, so it sounds great, low capacitance cable, easy to maneuver on a pedal board, and again, you want to go soldered whenever you can so that you don't risk any issues with any intermittent connections, and you have that gas tight connection throughout the entire rig. And then part three of the holy trinity of tone is that you're using a switch mode power supply. Again, that's going to make sure that it's isolated, as quiet as possible, and to make sure that we had an isolated switch mode supply, we got one from our friends over at Truetone, which also sponsored this giveaway and provided the CS12 for Rhye for the rig build. Absolutely sounds great. Everything is isolated. Everything is nice and quiet. No issues with noise, and I don't have to worry about where I put things like I would on a linear supply to try to avoid the magnetic field. when you're using a switch mode like this, I can put it anywhere, put pedals wherever I want. I don't have any issue with noise that's related to proximity or any noise related to the power supply itself. So observing that holy trinity of tone here, just make sure that I have great tone throughout, reliable, quiet, exactly the thing that you're gonna want in making sure that you're building the best rig possible. Now, enough of me talking about this holy trinity of tone. Let's see how it actually works in practice. I'm gonna take the rig, I'm gonna play through it a little bit, I'm gonna put it through a true bypass looper and really get a sense of how much transparency we got out of this rig just by observing those basic things. We actually didn't do any sort of conditioning or removal of buffers on this, and there are plenty of them to go around. We got a couple of Boss pedals, we have the Vertex Boost, which has a buffer in it. We have the Tube Screamer, which also has a buffer in it. There's a lot of buffers going on this thing, and sometimes playing that leapfrog of impedances can sometimes wreak havoc. We're gonna get to see how close we really got, throw it through the true bypass looper and get to hear what the guitar sounds like alone versus the rig brought in with all the pedals and bypass. Really evaluate if we were able to nail that transparency, again, observing the holy trinity of tone. Let's see how that goes. So now we're in my home studio here with Rhye's pedal board. I'm gonna take you through just a real basic overview of what we have going on here now that it's complete. I'm of course gonna let Rhye be the one to really evaluate the tones, but really what I wanna show you is what happens when you're following the key pillars of the holy trinity of tone. Again, this board may look nicer than maybe something that you can produce at home, but from a sonic standpoint, if you're observing those three key things, you're gonna get a result that sounds like this. And ultimately, at the end of the day, even if it doesn't look exactly the same or the same neatness as you might like, ultimately it's gonna sound the way that you want, which is the most important component. So let's just take a quick look at what we have here. So guitar, today I got my Fender Strat, all passive single coils, and I'm going into a one control true bypass looper. This is so we can hear what the whole entire pedal board sounds like bypassed versus the pedal board engaged. This is a good way or a litmus test to really determine how much noise is being added by way of the pedal board. So let's check that out and see what we got. So I'm just gonna leave the guitar on, I'm gonna leave the volume up, I'm gonna put my fingers over the strings to mute the strings, but we're gonna hear how much noise is coming from the pedal board. All the pedals are off, and I'm just gonna click the one control true bypass looper on and off so we can see what that sounds like. I'm literally hearing no difference in noise floor on or off. So this is a good indication that our power supply is not adding any extra noise. And even though we have quite a few buffers on here with quite a few Boss pedals, Ibanez pedals, the buffer in our Vertex Boost, we're not getting any detectable noise floor difference, which is great, which means that the cables are doing their job, the power supply is doing its job, the high quality cable from Best-Tronics is shielding everything appropriately, we're not getting any big differences or any increased noise by using the pedal board or not using the pedal board and going directly into the amplifier. So that's great news. But let's hear now just a quick tone test. I'm gonna do the same thing, just gonna kind of harp on just a G chord and kind of see what we have in terms of any appreciable loss or differences that we notice between the pedal board on and off to kind of test sort of the efficacy of the buffer and how well we were able to replicate the sound of the guitar going straight into the amplifier versus running through the entire pedal board with everything in bypass. Let's try that. So here's the pedal board on. Bypassed. Pedal board in. Pedal board out. Now I would say they sound pretty similar. There maybe is a little bit of a dynamic difference here. I think a lot of that is attributed to, again, the fact that we have a lot of buffers going on the pedal board. One way that would be really easy to clean that up if you really wanted to go all in is either converting some of these buffer devices into true bypass devices. As we've learned before with a lot of the Boss pedals, there's usually not just one buffer, there's at least two. There's an input buffer and an output buffer in each one of those Boss pedals, and sometimes there can even be a greater number of buffers than that. All those compounded can add up to quite a few more than just the pedals themselves. So you can modify those with my friend Rhye's kits from Greenhouse. He offers true bypass kits that you can retrofit to any Boss or Ibanez style device. That could be one option, but I still think overall it's actually pretty dang close. There maybe is a slight bit of difference, but I don't think it's too big, and especially when you start turning pedals on and off and you get all those impedances going, there really isn't going to be an appreciable difference. But moreover, there isn't any noise difference, which I think is the really critical thing. But let's go through the signal path. Let's just do a quick little demonstration of what we got going on. So guitar comes into the pedal board. First thing it hits is the compressor. Then from there, it goes into the Boss Blues Driver BD2. From there, it goes into the Guitarist OD2, which is actually a surprise. I thought it actually sounded really good. Even though these were really budget-oriented pedals, I think it actually sounds pretty impressive on this rig. Then goes to the classic TS-808 Tube Screamer, then goes into our Vertex Boost, which is attached to the volume pedal, which in this case is a fractal volume expression. From there, it then goes into the Qtron Mini, then goes into the Aquapus, then into the Boss DD3, and then finishes out in stereo out of the TC Hall of Fame 2 reverb back into the interfacer to receive those dual output buffers. And of course, we have that input buffer as the first thing that we plug into. I've also split off the input to go to the tuner, so the tuner's always running all the time. And I did a little modification of that tuner because of the position of it on the board. I didn't want to power it off the back where the power jacks normally are, so I rerouted a new jack for the DC on the side so that it wouldn't be obstructed or hang off the pedal board in any way. So that's the basic signal path. Again, starting with a high quality input output buffer, using high quality soldered cables, using a high quality power supply. That all adds up to sounding great, low noise, maybe a little bit of difference between the pedal board engage versus the pedal board out. But again, I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that we have a lot of Boss pedals on here. We got the Ibanez pedals on here. We got the Vertex Boost, a lot of other buffers that are going on here. And even though the Vertex Boost is a great buffer on its own, if we have all these other impedance changes, buffering going on, it does make it hard to get completely transparent at the end of the day. But I still think totally acceptable, great tone, low noise. And those are the things that are in our control. And I think this pedal board demonstrates a great job of that. And I think that Rhye is going to be really happy with it. So let's get this thing back to him. Let's see what he thinks.
Yeah, I just pulled the board out of the box and it's looking super clean. Looks amazing, just gorgeous. Everything is just super well maintained. All the cables is in there. You got like this the 2 tiers and stuff, and man, I'm just in love with it. Gonna plug it in, give you guys a quick sound check, see if everything's checking out and sounds as good as it looks. So yeah. There we go, I think it all works. Sounds great. Way better than my last board. Biggest thing is it's super quiet though. No noise, and that's what I love about it. Yeah, just super stoked to have won this giveaway. Super thankful to Mason and all the guys at Vertex for putting it together and having me be a part of it. Looking forward to using this board in the future, and yeah, super stoked. Thanks guys.
I'm so glad that he digs it. It seems like this is going to be a great workhorse for him, and as a young guitar player like Rhye, I'm sure that this is going to serve him for many years to come and is going to help get him through some gigs with having a really bulletproof and reliable pedal board that he can use in church, that he can use for gigs, whatever it is that he needs to do, he's going to have something that he can depend on. And again, if you didn't win this giveaway that we ran a few months ago, we're going to be running another one again soon. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. And we're going to involve some of these same great sponsors and maybe even some new ones that can help us with this new pedalboard giveaway, so be on the lookout for that. If you like what you saw and you dug this video, I highly recommend that you give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment, tell us about some of the favorite things or your favorite part of this video, and maybe give Rhye a well wish or congratulations for winning this rig. I'm glad that we were able to do this for him and get a young player a nice rig that he's really going to be able to use for many years to come. Until next time, I'm Mason Marangella, the Rig Doctor. I'll see you later.